Good morning. This is SU News. Today I'm joined with Boston City Councilor Matt O'Malley. He represents Boston District 6 in the City Council, which includes West Roxbury, Jamaica Plain, parts of Roslindale, parts of West Roxbury, and the back of Mission Hill. Councilor, thank you for joining me today.
Always great to be with you, RJ.
So I want to jump right in. Congratulations on your re-election to the council. This is your 10th term, right?
I'll be going into my 10th year. I won a special election, but I guess it's actually my 5th term. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah, it's an exciting time.
And you won with 95% of the vote. How is that possible?
Well, I've been very lucky to have gotten elected to a job that I love. I always say that the key to success in politics and government is hard work and luck. And the harder you work, the luckier you get. I have a fantastic team that helps me and supports me and serves the people of District 6. And we've been gratified to have been able to tackle tough issues, to be able to, I think, advance a strong and effective agenda, deliver top-notch constituent services, and have been honored to again be hired by the people of District 6 for another 2 years.
Speaking of issues, what is the one issue that you think needs to be addressed on day one of the new council term?
It's a great question. You know, I'd be hesitant to limit it to just one issue because there are so many things that it's facing the city right now. I've been very passionate about climate change and resiliency in ways that we can really push forward a strong, robust, and effective environmental agenda. Obviously, a focus on Boston Public Schools is something that the new council has to tackle. Housing, congestion, the incredible population growth in this city. We are just on the doorstep of 700,000 residents in the city of Boston. When I was first elected to this job in 2010, so less than 10 years ago, that number was about 560, 570. So we've seen incredible growth, and with that comes enhanced tax revenue and enhanced tax base, but also there's a lot of concerns that come with that from that as well, not the least of which are traffic, congestion, affordability. So those are just, you know, a number of issues that the new council should be tackling.
So you know there's going to be a recount that's going to go on for the 4th at-large seat.
Yeah.
It's meagerly 8 votes between Julia Mejia and Alejandra Sanguillen. What are your thoughts on this? Do you this is a big thing?
It's remarkable. I don't know that we've ever had a race that was so close before, particularly an at-large race. As you know, our citywide or at-large councilors are elected from all 255 precincts across the city. While turnout was very low in the election earlier this month, close to 70,000 people did vote. So to have a single-digit differential between two candidates is a remarkable thing. I think Julia and Alejandra are both incredible leaders and ran strong, obviously effective campaigns. So there's a process in place. I would argue the new council should be making it easier for automatic recounts when the differential is this small. But it'll be very exciting to sort of see how things unfold as it relates to some overseas ballots that we're still waiting for, overvotes or provisional ballots as well. I don't think anyone can honestly say that they have a gut feeling that it would go one way or another. It was originally 10 votes on election night. It then shrank to 5 votes. It's now gone to 8 votes, as you correctly noted, and it's incredibly close. I will say that it underscores the importance of voting and how one vote can truly make a difference. Sometimes people feel as though the elections are predetermined outcomes and one candidate may have more money or momentum, but clearly this shows how every vote is indeed crucial.
So you've met with Liz Beard, and she's the councilor-elect for District 9. What advice would you have to the any of the new incoming councilors?
Yeah. I've met with Liz in person, had terrific phone conversations with Ricardo Arroyo, who's the District 5 councilor-elect, as well as Kenzie Bach, the District 8 councilor-elect. Obviously know both Alejandra and Julia quite well and have been talking to them, so we'll see. It's exciting to have 4 new councilors. That coupled with the fact that 3 of our current councilors who will all be returning to the body are in their first term. We will have a majority of councilors who have been here for 1 term or less. That's a pretty remarkable statistic when you look at the little change that's occurred in the council through the last 20, 30, 40 years. The advice I gave Liz, and I've given the others, is to enjoy yourself, take the job seriously, have patience with the glacial pace that sometimes government can work. And this is something that I wish I had told myself as a freshman elected to the body, make sure you take time for yourselves, even if it's, a couple hours over the weekend to just practice self-care, go for a walk, go for a run, see a movie, spend time with loved ones. That's really, really important. Being a city councilor is among the greatest jobs, in my opinion. It's also tremendously demanding. It's rewarding, but can be demanding as well. And you need to make sure every councilor that he or she is able to have that little bit of break and that little space when they begin the hard work of serving the public.
So there's been a lot of rumblings about some of your colleagues looking to challenge Mayor Walsh in 2021. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think it's necessary that he have a challenger in 2021? Possibly?
I mean, I think every candidate is going to have to make their own determination. Elections are about choices, and contested elections are always a good thing. I say that as someone who has run as a challenger, been challenged as an incumbent, and run unopposed, so I can speak to it on every level. Choices are good things for voters. Competition is good in the private market, and it's good in politics as well. It benefits the consumer or the voter or the constituent. I think any colleague will have to decide what is best for them, and the focus really should be doing what we can, working together in the short term to support the new members of the body and be able to serve the public well as an independent and strong and I feel more relevant legislative body here in Boston.
So turning to local issues now, there's been a lot of talk about the use of congestion pricing here in the city. I know that's been a very controversial topic. What are your thoughts on that? I know there's been a lot of talk and a lot of debate about whether or not it's necessary. What are your thoughts?
I think it's a tool that we need to have an honest conversation about. Very few people, particularly those serving in public life, enjoy talking about any taxes or fees or revenues. I'm the author of the Plastic Bag Ordinance, which, as you know, mandates a 5-cent charge for thicker plastic bags or paper bags. That was not popular in all quarters. I think now, nearly a year into its implementation, it's actually proven to be quite a popular and effective policy proposal, something I'm very, very proud of. Congestion pricing has been used to great success in certain cities. London is often cited as one city where it's working exceptionally well. There was there's been a Globe Spotlight series I'm sure you've been keeping up on as it relates to Seeing Red is the name of it, talking about congestion, talking about traffic, and how congestion pricing can help address that. So I think we should have the conversation. There are a number of ways that it could be implemented. It could be specifically for the downtown sort of government center, Back Bay, Beacon Hill, Newbury Street neighborhoods. It could be within the city limits. It could differ on depending what time of day it is. So it's a conversation we should have. I would add the caveat that before we could even consider implementing congestion pricing, we need to fully invest in the MBTA. We need to make it so that there is an alternative. Many, 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 many more people would take the train into work or the commuter rail or the subway or the bus if it were more reliable, if it were more efficient, if it were more financially feasible than it is right now. So that's something that has to be part of any rollout as it relates to congestion.
Speaking of the MBTA, a proposal's been floated, or an idea's been floated by your colleague, Councilor Wu, about making the T free. What are your thoughts on that? I mean, do you think that this is something that should be considered?
Yeah, I appreciate Michelle's leadership on many issues. We've partnered on a whole host of environmental initiatives and policies, and certainly she has been an effective voice as it relates to mass transit. I'm very much intrigued by her idea. I think, if nothing else, she helped spark a conversation, and we're actually seeing other municipalities run with that. Lawrence, for example, is offering some subsidized or free bus routes. There's been talk about piloting it in certain numbers, particularly in communities of color. I support all of these things. Anything we can do to get more people on the T makes sense. I think the actual cost associated with a completely free public transit system is going to be difficult, so I'd need to see more details. I think Michelle would be the first to admit that this needs to be fleshed out more, but it's an important spark to a conversation that we should be having.
Also on the traffic note too, we've been in West Roxbury, there's been a big debate about the road diet and whether or not it's an effective thing. I know this is a very controversial issue with a lot of the neighbors, but
Sure.
what are your thoughts on it so far? What do you think is the best approach to solving this issue?
Yeah. It's a very, very important issue, and I think it's important as we frame the debate around traffic safety, the road diet specifically in West Roxbury. We need to recognize the fact that we all agree on what the ailment is, and that's Center Street needs to be safer. We also all agree on the fact that we want to see local businesses thrive. We do not want to see them hurt. And thirdly, we all agree that this is something that we want to have a holistic approach. We shouldn't put any measures in place that would somehow force a problem onto side streets or other parts of the neighborhood. So we may slightly disagree or vehemently disagree on what the prescription is, but we all agree on what the issues are that we need to work on. I have been very impressed with the level of engagement. It's been, as you said, controversial. I'd say passionate, and I think that's a good thing. People feel very, very strongly about it. I think it's been a good community process, and I think that there are some parts of the original road diet proposal that make a lot of sense that we should embrace. But there are other aspects of it that demand some change and will be a better finished product as a result. I can tell you there was a very well-attended meeting last night in the neighborhood at a hearing 2 days ago in City Hall on traffic and congestion and pedestrian safety. I specifically asked the Chief of Streets and the BTD Commissioner about next steps as it relates to Center Street. The thought is that they will continue to receive feedback and then come back to the community and after the first of the year with some revised plan or plans. So the conversation continues. You know, I would lament the fact that maybe it's been a little divisive needlessly because, again, we all want the same thing, which is a safer Center Street, safer roads. We may differ on our approach to get there, but I'm committed to finding something that that's going to work for the neighborhood.
Okay. There's been an explosion in the number of houses and condominiums and houses that have been built in Boston, and some people have floated the idea of rent control, and I know this is another thorny issue in Boston.
Sure.
But what are your thoughts on rent controls? Do you think, what are your thoughts on it?
There's no doubt that we need to do more in terms of building more affordable opportunities for not only renters, but for homeowners as well. You've seen some municipalities look at a rent-to-own option, look at access to capital at a lower discounted rate to be able to build home ownership, which ultimately I think is the gold standard of what we want, the dignity and the financial security that comes with owning your own home. Not everyone can do that. I certainly rented before I owned, and we need to make sure that we have more affordability as it relates to the rental market. Part of that is building more. Another part of that is making sure that we sort of drill down deeply on what constitutes affordability, because for many people what is seen as affordability or the levels, the AMI levels that would constitute affordability isn't actually affordable. So that's part of the conversation. I will answer you specifically as it relates to rent control. I caution people from thinking that it's just necessarily a panacea to create more on-demand affordable housing. This was a law that was repealed in the Commonwealth, so there isn't a mechanism to bring it back absent some significant changes from the state legislature. But things we should continue. So I have a lot of concerns about rent control, but I do believe that we have not only an opportunity but a real duty to focus on other ways to grow home ownership and provide more affordable housing options for folks.
Turning to education, and you mentioned that's going to be one of the top priorities in the council in the coming term.
Yep.
There was recently a bill that was released by the Mass House and Senate that is going to overhaul the state education laws. What are your thoughts on that?
I'm very excited about that. I think that we've had a difficult and vociferous debate as it relates to charter schools versus traditional public schools, and one thing that the Promise Act, this bill you're referencing, addresses is some of the funding gaps that relate to how our schools are reimbursed, the charter reimbursement formula that's been woefully underfunded. This ought, similar to be it the housing debate or traffic and congestion debate, I'd put education, specifically the charter debate. It shouldn't be us versus them or neighbors bickering on what the right approach should be. We should try to find some common ground, and I'm very grateful to the leadership of State Senator Sonia Chang Diaz and so many members of the legislature who've been able to advance the Promise Act, because it will get to, I think, the fundamental crux of the debate, which is what many people, myself included, perceive as an unfair funding mechanism to be able to make sure that more of our public schools, be they charter or traditional public schools, have the funding and the resources that they need.
Okay, so turning to the 2020 Democratic primary, what are your thoughts on it so far? There's been a lot of movement. There's a debate coming up tonight. What are your thoughts? What are your general thoughts?
I think it's really exciting. I think that we have one of the most qualified fields of candidates we've ever seen. I am partial to Senator Elizabeth Warren, who is our senior senator in Massachusetts, someone who has, I think, run a phenomenal campaign. But having said that, I will vote for whomever the Democratic nominee is, and we've got some great candidates, including Kamala Harris, the Senator of California, Mayor Pete Buttigieg, Deval Patrick, of the most recent entry, and someone who I think served this state with honor and distinction. It's certainly Senator Sanders is another great candidate who has run a very, very strong campaign. I appreciate how the DNC has put some strict rules as it relates to the debate stage, and I actually think this has been a good process where it seems every month or so there is a debate, and the criteria for getting invited to that debate keeps growing. I think while many candidates may disagree that it's seemingly unfair, I think the party acted in the right manner to get us to this point. I am excited to see a continued debate, relatively positive debate on ideas and proposals. I think that we need to be united as a party to defeat Donald Trump next year. It's now the end of November. We will have the Iowa caucus within probably 2 or 3 months from now, and you'll see the field continue to winnow down, and I'm just grateful that we have such an embarrassment of riches as it relates to the candidates.
So I want to turn back to city politics, and I recently just thought about this, but there's been a proposal floated by some of your colleagues for an inspector general for the city of Boston. What are your thoughts on this proposal? Have there been hearings?
There was one hearing. This is the proposal you're referencing that was authored by the council president, Andrea Campbell. I am a supporter of the proposal. It obviously still needs to be fleshed out, as we're talking about creating a new position, likely a new staff. There's a lot of financial constraint that comes with that, but it's an important position. It is incumbent upon us as elected officials to do everything we can to protect and enhance trust and integrity in our public service and in our public institutions, such as City Hall, such as city government. So anything we can do to that end, we ought to be doing. So I'm excited to see how this continues in the new year, and something that I think is long overdue.
Councilor O'Malley, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, RJ.
And that is all we have for SU News. I'm RJ Agostinelli.